Today we're going to talk a little bit about the news with Epstein, and this is a great time. We talked about this at the last moment, last session we had with Eric Hernandez on how awesome it is that we live in the time and day and age that we do. People are without excuse. We're going to dig in just a little bit to some of the stuff on the Epstein files, just the cursory stuff, and ask the question, how does a Christian leverage that into a positive conversation about the gospel? And of course, we can't not talk about Pam Bondi, but we're going to do some Steve shenanigans and some other stuff. So it is going to be a fun day. Hang around for it. Song review, all that incoming. Jonathan Fiala for Further Everyday Sitting in the Chair Philosophy. To my left, I've got Steve. How's it going, sir?
Doing fantastic, Mr. Fiala. And
there.
plan on being excessively, possibly extremely excessively politically incorrect.
As always.
I believe so. Sounds like a good day to be it.
Yep. And then, of course, we got producing Ryan. How's it going, dude?
I'm good. How are y'all today?
Doing well.
The rye guy.
The
That's
Rye
me.
guy. Rye, the producer guy. So, all right. Epstein, what do we know? Well, you know, there's a lot of summarization. There's a lot of surmising going on. But what we do have is the email chain. And I think this is a great apologetic tool. I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds on what all this means, but because I don't know. There's a lot of really good theories out there, and I know there's folks on PSB that do research that. If you're one of our regular listeners on YouTube, Rumble, or anywhere you can find audio podcasts, PSB has got some of the sauce, so go check them out. And we do air the show live on Sundays 1 to 3 in God's time zones, Central Standard. So you can check in there, and you can be involved in the live chat. Housekeeping aside, Mr. Producer, go ahead and bring up cut number 1. So if you have not been searching through the Epstein files, what are you doing? This is the most exciting development we've had in years. So this is the beef jerky thread. So again, the subject is beef jerky. This is a reply. Okay, then I'll have to bring some with me. Is it possible to collect it from you tomorrow or today? Now, the person who's being emailed is redacted here. Oh, change of plans. I'll be flying out on Monday. I can get beef jerky to you tomorrow, so you can take it on Friday. And then, okay, from Karina Shuliak to Francis. Hi, Francis. J.E., that'd be Epstein, is asking to bring him more beef jerky on Friday. Are you also flying on Friday? If not, I would like to collect it from you and take it with me on the plane. Please let me know. Thanks, Karina. Sent from my Verizon BlackBerry. Now, this is 2012. BlackBerries were still a thing. Now they're not. That is not news, but, you know, it's just kind of a blast from the past. Do you remember BlackBerries, Mr. Producer? You're too young.
I don't think so.
You don't remember BlackBerries? Yeah.
No, I don't.
They
think
were
so.
a big thing. Like from flip phones
Oh, they were
to the
a big
iPhone.
thing, man.
They were like the intermediate between the flip phone and the iPhone.
Man, I remember when I was working at
Hillary
one
Clinton
law firm.
beat her phone to death with a hammer, her BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember at law firm I worked at, it was like every attorney had a BlackBerry, man.
Yeah.
All of them.
So
That
it's
was the thing.
it's a little bit so silly to dive off there, but just it's a blast from the past. Jerky sounds ominous with someone who is doing evil things to children, and there's pizza, and there's a number of other code names that are throughout, potentially steak. And so a lot of people made a big deal of the cannibal restaurant, which I believe is coming up. We're going to talk more about that. So let's go ahead and go to the next cut, Mr. Producer. Cut number 2. I think it's in this one. I'm going to pull it up. Okay, hi. J.E. is asking to bring him more beef jerky on Friday. Are you also flying on Friday? If not, I'd like to take some with you. Send on the plane. Please let me know. Next cut, Mr. Producer. Francis has time to come tomorrow to show me how to make it. Jerky class, anyone. He will also bring you a new taste of his jerky recipe from the restaurant and sends a warm hello. He is working at a restaurant called Cannibal and Cooks. Wait for it, beef jerky and steak. He has time at 3 p.m. tomorrow, if this is okay with you. Now, Cannibal, you can actually look up Cannibal and Cooks. It is a restaurant in New York.
What?
So here's my thing. Even if no cannibalism occurred, And most of these photos that we see, and I'm not going to traffic in these photos, guys. These photos are graphic. But there are photos of what look like at least effigies, if not convincing images of children with their legs, go wide, Mr. Producer, their legs pulled up like this to expose their nether regions and their stuffing coming out. I don't know if that's AI. Some of it was AI, and I don't know how much of it is or isn't real. But the fact that you're in this cabal that kind of revels in the Satanism, you're eating at a place called Cannibal and Cooks, which is a real place.
But you think, who would want
to be affiliated
restaurant called Cannibal and Cooks?
Yeah.
I mean, I was in a restaurant business when I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, and Cannibal and Cooks, man, that is
so you don't
God.
even have to say we know for sure one way or the other, but what you can say is these people they dabbled. At minimum, the most charitable explanation is that they had effigies of children, and they kind of talked about jerky, and they also talked about children in a certain way, and of course they abused them, physically. But there is now like a question in the back of the mind, like, what is jerky? What is this? Some people say adrenochrome. Okay, maybe. Don't know. Is this like a return to a ritualistic Molech?
Well, I know what they make jerky out of, and it's not adrenochrome. It's usually out of meat, and
You see, one Brad
so that
A.
that doesn't sound good to me.
One Brad A on the live chat over at PSB on D Live says, they're bragging about the restaurant name. They think they're cool. I think that is the part that we can latch on to and say, even if nothing else is true, that is true. That they at least think. There's a lot of Satanists who are Satanists to kind of, it's like, oh, I want to get at the Christian. I want to get under the skin. I want to hail Satan, they'll say. And it's kind of a meme. But there comes a point where after a while of memeing, you start to become. We are mimetic creatures. We copy each other. And we also copy the behavior that we repeat day to day. That's why daily affirmations work. And I'm not a daily affirmation guy. I'm a daily prayer guy. I don't affirm myself. I affirm God's godhood, and I say, I am your servant. And I try to act accordingly. I try to focus on God, not me. But I'm saying the more you revel in that darkness, the more you become like it. So
yes, I agree there.
And again, some people are in the comments are saying it is child meat. Don't know yet. Need full verification. I know that there's some stuff out there. If it's true, I mean, what better opportunity to share the gospel than that coming up in a conversation at work? Because people like to split the God of the Old Testament from Christ and say there's somehow two different people. I don't know about you, Mr. Producer, but the more of this stuff I read, the more I get on God's side.
Yeah, totally.
And
it's gross.
That kind of thing I don't wonder why there are people and, how do I want to say, not people, but people groups, I guess, to say that God completely annihilated in the Old Testament.
It's a good thing.
When
and by the way,
they did that sort of, when you're...
It wasn't every single nation either.
No,
but is the
correct.
one specifically that were fully given over to Baal and Molech.
Right.
That would, and for those of you who are not familiar, Return of the Gods by Jonathan Cahn is a really, really interesting book, and he really has brought out some interesting information on that. You look back at the ancient Sumerians, and we did an episode, like, what was it, a year and a half ago? Are we just worshiping pagan gods again? Like, it's basically what we're doing. Molech is, sorry, Mr. Producer, you were going to jump in. No? Okay. I thought you were moving to the mic. No, Molech is just basically the god for abortion. Baal. So trivia, those who were watching and listening, who was Baal the god of? And who was Ashtoreth the goddess of? Because those two, they're very relevant to the modern time.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Well, that's Ashtoreth. And Baal was the god of the climate. and we worship both again, right? And we worship both. So Asherah was the goddess of parades, parties. She co-opted the rainbow. She also, it is given unto you in honor of Ashtoreth to change man to woman, woman to man. She was the goddess of transgenderism. It's some frightening stuff, right? So we are seeing these global elites, at minimum, they are memeing that they serve Satan. But after a while of memeing that you serve Satan, Satan is not mocked. You will serve him if you do not serve God, and you will be used by Satan if you are not used by God. It's not an either or thing as much as it is God is going to use you if you allow him to use you, and Satan will gladly walk all over you and use you to do whatever he wants.
He will walk on you from daylight to dark and continue doing it. And God will do nothing but give you grace. And that's why Jesus' blood was shed on the cross.
Yeah.
Was to give you grace and salvation. And what better love can you get than that? I mean, to live for eternity in the presence of God.
And what greater love can you exhibit? Trivia Pursuit, guys, those in the comments. If you haven't been watching for a long time, you may not know this. If you've been listening for the last, I don't know, however long you've been here, listening to our show, what is the opposite of love? What is the opposite of love? And a lot of you are going to think hate. It is not the opposite of love. Apathy is the opposite of love. And you cannot have love without having hate. What's the explanation, Mr. Producer?
If I kick your dog,
and you love your dog,
right,
you're
then
going to hate.
I'm going to hate what you did.
You're going to hate what you did. You might be able to delineate between the person and the action as God does. You may not, but you will hate what was done to your dog.
If you love someone or something, you will hate anything that harms it.
See, Ricky Roush said indifference, correct. Apathy, not caring, not having a desire for the best interest. You don't really care. You will hate that which you love. God loves the little children. This is a great time to say, by the way, that God of the Old Testament, imagine a whole society of people that did this. Would you not be on God's side if he said, I'm going to cut that line off. I'm going to stop that dead in its tracks. That's the God of the Old Testament. He is a loving God. He is a God that said, hey, opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. You've used them up. You're done. Only an apathetic God would continue to allow that to exist. It is the best thing to see God removing these ancient, horrible tribes off the face of the earth, because they would replicate and they would continue to do the same thing. You've heard of breeders. I think we even covered breeders, didn't we, Mr. Producer, about 2 years ago?
Maybe.
People who breed specifically to abort their children.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I do now.
We even watched this couple. It was their fetish.
Oh, yes.
Like their whole thing was, we want to get pregnant so we can abort. And she had like 20-something, I think it was 20-something abortions.
Yeah, I think so.
So imagine a society that burns the child alive.
That's
eats
definitely a Moloch thing.
And then eats the children afterward. You get you get issues in the genetic line from people. I forget the name of the disease. In fact, you might look this up, Mr. Producer. What's the name of the disease you get when you eat human flesh? Because there's actually a disorder when you eat human.
It turns your fingernails a certain color too.
And you get the shakes. My favorite representation of this is the Book of Eli. You want some meat? And
and their fingernails were
all that crazy color.
Yeah.
And so you actually get a serious disability from that, and it affects you. So
I found it.
You found it? What is it?
According to the internet, it's called Kuru.
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 Hey, Praying Mantis came out, and I think Ultra Cool Pup says Kuru as well. And Dr. Zeus, if I missed someone, thank you guys. Yeah, Kuru. So all of that to say, God is just. God is good.
Amen.
And the God of the Old Testament was good. This is a time that you can really pull these out. Bring up the next one, Mr. Producer, if we weren't discussed it enough. But let's go ahead and read along with us if you care to, audience. Just wanted to touch base about jerky. This is in 2012. J.E. says he's going to start eating regular food again, so he might be eating less jerky. That said, he has 6 bags of it downstairs in his freezer for his next trip. I believe it should be enough to get him through. Any other questions, please let me know. Thanks, Francis. Now, this is what I originally thought. I started to read this, and I thought maybe that's a code word for young children. But 6 in the freezer? Freezer could be a location that they're keeping children. But it's starting to sound like it's something that's edible. Like maybe they're just really doing a good job with their code words. But jerky would be a weird thing to pick as a code word. I don't know. It's strange. And the fact that there even is a question, we should be demanding answers. We should be demanding answers. And by the way, go ahead and pull this up. This next one up, Mr. Producer, this is cut 5. I spoke with him yesterday. He is working at a restaurant Cannibal, but he wants to leave as he asked for equity in the business. And they said, no, he ultimately wants to open his own restaurant, but he wants to take off 12 months, 6 to 12 months to clear his head at that time. He said he would be available. If you were interested, please advise. Thank you. Now, a lot of people have remarked on the equal signs. I don't know if a better suggestion has been posited other than this. When you are copying, especially on some of the older MS-DOS machines, when you're doing copy, those scans can end up substituting the equal sign when certain characters are in place for the return on the typewriter. So that's what that was. People were wondering if that was a search engine spoof, like you would type something in wrong. This happened with Hillary Clinton. She would type certain words in wrong in her emails, so it was hard to search. She would always misspell them in certain ways, but it was clear enough to whoever's reading that it was that word. I don't know if that's here. It does seem random. It does seem like a carriage return error as things are being scanned, and that was a solid suggestion that I heard. So I know there's some theories on that, but the most solid one that makes sense to me is someone who does do some IT work from time to time. It seems like that's the carriage return sign and signal. All of that to say, they got to clear their head for a few months. They want to get out of it for a while. All this says it's not licit, whatever they're doing. It would be illicit.
Correct. And I would agree with you on that. And from, it doesn't sound good. Just circumstantially, it doesn't sound good from those texts. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Circumstantially, it doesn't.
Yeah. So it's concerning. And again, the further down the hole you go, there's a lot of there's several things that are referenced. Jerky was just the one that was very commonly brought out early on, and don't know what all that means. What I want to say is this is the best chance to share the gospel with people who want to talk about this. If they want to talk about this, this is your chance to say, man, it's too bad that there wasn't a God in the Old Testament who wanted to remove this from the face of the earth. Oh, he did. Do you see why he might have been a little bit peeved? Do you see why he might have been a little bit quick for the justice? That's a great opportunity to leverage this for the gospel.
Well, when you reference jerky and a cannibal restaurant in the same text message, that doesn't sound really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
That doesn't
None of it's
lead to good thinking, should I say.
None of it's good. And so, unfortunately, when asked about this, if you have not been aware, if you're living under a rock, Pam Bondi was brought to testify about a few things, and one of the things was the Epstein files. And look, she's being interrogated by people who have bad intentions. Correct. Noted. I think this response was subpar, and we'll kind of go over why I think it's something that we really ought to reconsider Pam Bondi's employment. President Trump should look at someone who has the capacity to maneuver here, but let's go ahead and pull up cut number 6, sir.
Mr. Bondi, you go right ahead. I'm over here. The time is yours. Thank you. First, he brought up the president saying they indicted me twice. They sure did. They tried to impeach him twice. And you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. I was on the other side. I lived that with you. During impeachment, you said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. Robert Mueller found no evidence, none, of foreign interference in 2016. Have you apologized to President Trump? Have you apologized to President Trump, all of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, the American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million, and Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them asked Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000.
Pause.
And the
Now, that's a great lesson in how to say things that are true, but not answer the question that was posed. I'm going to be really careful here what I say, because look, Bondi's not wrong about all of those things. She was asked a question, and she's being asked, what are these redactions? What's going on here? That's a simple answer. It's very easy. Bondi, I have the ability and responsibility to redact some things until I can know that I'm not going to harm victims and I'm not going to harm people who are going to be indicted in the court of public opinion until such time. Whether that's true or not, to whatever you're concerned with at the moment, Bondi, that's all you have to say. And then move on. Instead of deflecting to the Dow, instead of deflecting to all these other points that have nothing to do. The Dow being at 50,000, isn't that Scott Bessent's territory? Isn't that other people in the administration's territory? Like, what does that have to do with you, the Attorney General? The Attorney General. What does that have to do with you? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But I do feel like it is a really, really good opportunity for us to now make like the Attorney General. Next cut, Mr. Producer.
You know, she wants to make sure that she doesn't. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So this is going to be quotable quotes. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Now, this is a new segment. We're going to bring in some quotable quotes. She wants to make sure that she doesn't incriminate the wrong people. Whatever it is, that's fine. But I think it's a little bit premature. So this one, Mr. Producer, I want you to go ahead and read this. This is now, we're going to start making like our Attorney General. So go ahead and get up the next cut, Mr. Producer. Tell me what you're going to say next time you go 70 in the school zone.
70 in a school zone is okay, officer. The Dow Jones broke 50,000.
Oh, it broke 50,000. I'm so sorry. I'll let you off. That's great. That's great. It's a 50,000.
That's super.
That solves everything. It has nothing to do with why you're going 70 in the school zone. Next one, Mr.
But
Producer.
it broke 50,000.
Next quotable quote.
It's okay, son. Your inheritance was easy to spend. The Dow Jones broke 50,000.
That's a perfectly reasonable explanation. The Dow Jones broke 50,000.
Yeah.
So,
and it was easy to spend. I didn't have a problem.
Yeah, and speaking of spending money, Steve, I stole your wallet.
What?
But it's
and
okay.
This has been quotable quote.
Because the Dow Jones broke 50,000. So, does that work? Obviously not. Obviously, it does not work. No, it's not Steve's wallet, thankfully.
Yeah. Thank God.
Well, he's packing. I'd be in trouble if I tried to steal his wallet. But All of that to say, now that's going to be fodder for the next, I don't know how many months. That's going to be something that they're going to use over and over and over again. And
Constantly.
I don't understand. So Click Now says she has a real chip on her shoulder and redirects topics, in my opinion. I totally agree. More than that, there are people who are insinuating that she's in the files and it's uncomfortable. Don't know. I've seen photos that look really convincing. It's hard in the day of AI to tell, but there was also some money that transferred supposedly back in 20 teens with her that looks like there might have been some maybe graft or stuff that's hard to explain. Don't know. Don't know. It's interesting, and it ought to be looked at, because if Pam Bondi is holding this up for some reason, it is not a good thing.
You know, it's interesting that, you know, they want to make sure they don't want to, you know, hurt the victims or release any victims' names, but only thing that happens is the people that did the harm, they're the only ones that the names that are redacted. All of the victims' names got released. What
Yeah.
kind of nonsense is that?
Yeah.
I mean, what's up with that nonsense? You know what I mean?
So Dearman joined in. He says, it's okay. It's Prince Spaghetti Day, Mario. Okay. I'm assuming I'd have to say that in the Mario accent. It's a Mario. It's okay. It's a Princess Spaghetti Day, Mario. I guess that'd be Luigi. It would be Luigi if he was speaking. But yes, Dearman, you know exactly where we are. So I think it's absurd. It's ridiculous. And Pam Bondi has showed that not only is she not a principled person, she's not a conservative, and she's also not capable of acting under fire. Like Marco Rubio. He's like, yeah, hey, we don't have to invade Venezuela. We don't have to say that we won't invade Venezuela. We're going to leave the options on the table. Thank you. That's all. Like, he's in these hearings and he's able to just maneuver carefully, and he has his thoughts pre-prepared. Bondi had to look down at her notes, Chuck's notes. The Dow is 50,000. It just broke 50,000. That's the note that you brought? Oh my gosh. Please don't let President Trump get encumbered by another bad cabinet pick.
Well,
Everyone
I'm not
else this term
impressed
is
by
doing
her
that.
anyways, because, I mean, she's a red flag law lady. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not into that sort of thing. That's just
See, Kinsley Wren,
unconstitutional stuff anyways. So that just burns my bridge.
I totally agree with you. Red flag laws. She's generally anti-Second Amendment, and Kinsley Wren said it really well. She goes, she wanted hate speech laws. She's a Bushy. Totally agree. It's part of the old guard where they would self-enrich with all of the largesse of the taxpayer and all the power that they had. So it's not a good thing that she is in a position of power. She is part of the swamp. Unfortunately, I just feel like there are better picks.
Well, here's
So-
medieval Dark Knight saying, well, at least the host isn't calling her Bondi a bimbo.
Bimbo Bondi?
Not yet.
Look, I try, Pam Bondi, maybe that's a little bit ad hominem, but we're trying to actually deal with facts. I'm sure she's actually a nice person. Like, I don't wish her any harm. And for the most part, she's surrounded by enough people that good things are happening. And
Right. Yeah.
her team did do something interesting. I hear that they tracked all of the searches, and that's why she actually walked in with a search history for a bunch of the congressional members on what they looked for in the Epstein files. That's a really good move. So absolutely going to give that to Bondi on that and her team. You just got to actually have the talking points right before you get out there, and you got to also not deflect. She's defensive all the time. She has the moral high ground. She needs to use it, or she needs to abdicate to someone who will.
There's got to be somebody on her team or somebody somewhere in that cabinet that's got to have some kind of leash on her as far as her grounds in regards to Second Amendment issues and stuff, because when she was before she got with President Trump, man, she was really big on anti-Second Amendment, red flag laws.
Yeah.
I mean, she was really hammering
She's not a
people on that.
principled conservative, and so it's unfortunate. So
There's got
just
to
one more
be
from
somebody with have her on a leash on her somewhere.
Dearman. Before you criticize Bam Bondi, walk a mile in her 4-inch stilettos. Funny.
No, I got
Funny.
bad ankles.
Funny. Yeah. Well, you would definitely turn one. Yeah. And I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to see you in 4 inches. So
No, me neither.
of all of this reminds me of our next segment. Apparently, people are getting dumber, especially Gen Z. So, in a new study that is out, and this was cited recently in a congressional hearing, we've actually seen a reverse of the Flynn effect. Go ahead, next cut, Mr. Producer. The Flynn effect is, you see the chart on your left, is where people generally become more intelligent over time. And you'll see that all of these traits were rising since the 1960s, and then they start to stall in the 70s. You see a precipitous drop much more recently in the 2015 era on the study to the right. Now, there is evidence that in the last decade or so, the changes that we've made to education have made Gen Z dumber. Now, if one wants to wear the tinfoil hat, the conspiracy would be, and I think it's accurate, that they would like a voting bloc who is more malleable. That's why children are taught what to think, not how to think. You've heard that over and over again, but it is getting worse by the day. And you see it in the youth, in Gen Z. There's often a lack of wherewithal with just understanding of what's going on around them. Situational awareness is down. They've started doing studies, and they're starting to find out why. Next cut, Mr. Producer. This is interesting. It's more complex than kids are getting dumber, but there are some things that are physically verifiably measurable. And the conclusions in this one study, associations between screen-based media use and brain white matter integrity in pre-age school children, had this to conclude. Conclusion and relevance. This study found an association between increased screen-based media use compared with the AAP guidelines and lower microstructural integrity of brain white matter tracts, supporting language and emergent literacy skills in pre-kindergarten children. The findings suggest further study is needed, particularly during rapid early stages of brain development. That's a mouthful to say. If you did not catch it, there is less white matter growing in children who have lots of screen time. And, Mr. Producer was probably less so than the average, but growing up, especially watching younger kids, what are they always glued to?
A screen.
A screen. And it's Coco Melon, Miss Rachel.
That's not my generation. That's the next one, but that's the one. That's what my little cousins are watching, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right.
stop that. Stop your family from subjecting the children to that, because it's bad for them. It literally reduces the amount of development of white matter.
I mean, we're talking like 1-year-olds. They just hand their phone over to them, and or those little rubber tablets that they make for children nowadays, and they just hand it to them. And these little kids, they're like 2 years old, and they'll spend hours on these things. Hours.
Yeah. And so it absolutely deprioritizes certain skills. Now, 3D spatial skills, there are certain parts of 3D spatial skills that we see improving, but the rest of the important pieces of the puzzle, as far as developmental instruction and learning for children, are missing in a lot of these kids. Once they get to school, you also will see an increase in aggression for these kids because of some of the programming that they're watching. It's visually insulting. Yeah. Like, have you seen The Wiggles?
Yes.
Yeah, like I see that, and it's visually. I feel like I've been hit in the eyeballs with something that I should not have been. It's very aggressive and flashy and emotive. And Miss Rachel is like another example. And of course, she's a lefty, programming kids in that way. And it's no good. But that is a serious, serious problem that will catch up to us if we're not careful. Now, Melissa Perry said, I take exception to that. My son is Gen Z. He and his friends are very smart. Lack of parental involvement is more in the line, I think. We're talking about the whole of Gen Z. Mr. Producer is Gen Z. He's not taking any exception to this, right?
Right.
You know I'm not talking about you. But we see the vast majority of Gen Z is actually testing lower, in contradiction to what the trend we've seen for the last few decades as we've been testing this. It's relatively a new trend that we're able to test IQ. But the Flynn effect is year over year, IQ increases in the next generation. Kids born in my era knew more than kids born in the 50s. Not because we were somehow smarter, not because we were somehow just this superior thing. No, we had more access to information, and it was taught to us. But with the smartphone, now you're given all of this information, but you're also given no barriers to stimulus. And let me rephrase it. The barriers to stimulus are reduced, and people are more and more incentivized to waste time and to not pursue knowledge, to not pursue virtuous things. And
Right.
so it degrades the development, especially in young children. So it's a serious question. Should we be looking at this differently? And I'm sure, Melissa Perry, that your kids were raised well. Just like I say, boomers generally left the nation worse off than they found it. That's not necessarily most of the people listening to this. That's not Steve, but that's looking at the people who spent all of that money that was supposed to be y'all's retirement. Your Social Security was thrown into the general fund, and it was those corrupt politicians. But it was that era that put all of that money into the general fund and washed it away. So we're speaking about the monolith. There will always be exceptions to that rule. Totally agree. Totally agree. So next up, Mr. Producer, this is another study looking for Flynn effects in a recent online U.S. adult sample examining shifts within SAPA project. In the takeaways, they said this: the largest differences in mean ability scores were often observed for participants between the ages of 18 and 22. This study being done in 2023. Beyond age, a reverse Flynn effect was also present across all levels of educational attainment, with the rate of decreasing scores being steeper for those with less than a 4-year college degree. What's all that saying? The Zoomer generation that basically lost their time during COVID, their high school years, if they were not surrounded by intelligent parents and intelligent teachers, and they weren't pushed to finish, we're seeing a whole generation that was affected by COVID. It is one more casualty of COVID as we see a group of people who are markedly, notably beyond the mean average rate dumber. And it's because of what we've done with our school system and leftist policies.
Yeah, and it's very true how that time of the fake COVID thing went on, how it affected all of the kids that were across the board that were in school, from first grade up through 12th grade, man. I mean, it affected everybody. I mean, you keeping kids out of school through all of that time, and it affects their learning. And like you said, unless you had parents that were willing to go ahead and teach their kids during that time, and parents that were doing homeschooling,
Yep.
those were really the only kids that continued their educational means and were able to continue to learn and obtain an education. Otherwise, the school system failed them.
Yep.
And so did all these politicians that are in there to do what? To take care of this country, and they failed during that time.
Correct. And the parents, though, were ultimately the ones who had consigned them, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
hard. Parenting is hard. I understand that. I get it. But you can choose what your children watch. You can choose who teaches your kids. There are ways that you can do that. And life is a set of choices. Sometimes that means that you end up having to stay with your parents if things go bad. Sometimes that means you have to find someone to build a life with, to have that child grow up in a full household. That is the number one thing you can do, is you can find someone to build a 2-parent household. That is the highest indicator of child success. You have a 2-parent household, a man and a woman, father and a mother. That is the highest indicator of success. But also what you feed them. So Melissa Perry's and Kinsley Wren, Thomas the Tank Engine. That's what I grew up on. I was literally just saying this the day before. I was talking with someone. I said, at least they introduced engineering concepts, some titles, some words. They didn't expect the kids to know them, but it was a part of, it wasn't this insulting baby talk that you see in current television. And
Right.
need to dig out this study. There is a study that was done, or at least a start of a study, that suggested, and I don't know what the methodology was too good on this, because I was looking for it, Mr. Producer, before we started the show, and I had a hard time finding a source study for this. But supposedly, there are some articles online that 90s entertainment, babies sleep better, they're less hyperactive, they're less aggressive, and the IQ goes up. And so need to find that study, specifically which one that is, because I was looking for a couple for sources on that, and I was having a hard time pulling up an original source. I always want to make sure I bring those. But it's not because 90s cartoons are necessarily better in the sense of they're somehow this wonderful, awesome thing. It's the stuff that kids are watching today is so degrading. It's so low.
Very much so. And the thing that I've noticed about them is the sneaking in of all of the trans stuff and the LGBT stuff that they kind of sneak in and have in there, where they have the little girlfriend over here that's my friend, but we, however, and they kind of schmooze it to sound different, but the parents know what it is.
Yeah.
And after the kids hear it a few times, kids aren't stupid. They know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something
You know
on
what I mean?
Instagram, this post by this lady who was standing by her DVD shelf, and she was talking about reasons why they have only stick to physical media. They don't do streaming service or anything like that, because you see a lot of these kids nowadays, and they're just like, they know how to work that tablet, right? They know how to work that streaming service, and they can just find whatever they want to watch.
And they can get around it.
Even if you put it on the kids setting, like Mr. Steve said, you might still get some of that transgender stuff sneaking in there. I know.
Well, Eric Hernandez was just here last week, and his kid was watching James Charles, and she didn't even know about James Charles before, and she's just surfing the kids' YouTube, and James Charles is allowed on kids' YouTube.
Yeah, but the point she was making, like, if you stick to physical media, like, you control what your kids are watching.
Yeah.
And, like, they don't even let them put in the DVD by themselves, right? So they always know what their kids are watching, what they have access to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's critical. And I think parents need to start. I don't know. It's a good time to become a peculiar people.
As a parent, you are not your kid's friend.
No, you're not.
You are their parent. You have to teach them. You have to train them and show them what is good, what is evil, what is love, what is apathy, and what God and Jesus is all about, and what he can do for your life. And that's what parents are for. And they're to accomplish this by being together as what God had commanded to do.
Yep.
I mean, it's a commandment. It's there.
Yep. Yep. And that is the purpose of marriage. That is the purpose of parenthood, is to pass that on.
Correct.
And so I think it's become very easy with how we've commodified and commoditized marriage to just overlook the product of it. And people want to, the pill was probably one of the worst things that could have happened.
Oh.
So a lot of people want to say that we shouldn't let women vote. They'll point to the 19th Amendment. Here's what I'll say about that. The 19th Amendment, nothing went off the rails until you introduced the idea that people could have, marital relations and no consequence, no children. And now women who were voting didn't have children in the war, and they weren't in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have a husband who have to go to the war, right? So I would say the pill might have been much more destructive. People want to make a case that we should abolish the 19th. Guys, I don't think that's A, going to happen. B, I don't think it's a great metric. I understand Trump would have won all 3 times, clear, free, and away, far over, despite any fraud. I don't think it's a good argument. I don't think it works very well, and I think it's much different than the 19th Amendment itself. Women being able to vote is not the issue. It's where our hearts are, and it's where consequences are and aren't. You gotta encourage people to protect the family unit. And we've divorced that from culture and society. I'm not calling for an abolition of the pill either, necessarily. I think it's not a good thing. I think it's not a good thing. I think it damages women's health, and women need to know.
I agree.
There's
I agree
a whole
with
set
you.
of data on that. But what I would say is this. I think it's been one of the most destructive things societally, and it was intended to be so by the ilk of Margaret Sanger and those folks.
I completely agree with you on that, and I also think that the no-fault divorce was probably one of the worst things they brought around for the family unit.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, really was. I mean, it's really destroyed the family unit in America. But on the other hand, that's what they had in mind.
Yeah.
It really is.
They were trying to rebuild
that's
society.
What they had in mind.
And that's where they're going. They're trying to rebuild society in their own image, and they're
Correct. And
that's
we
the sad
know
thing.
how that ends.
Yeah, it always ends in Antichrist. But
Yep.
with that said, any other thoughts on this before we move on to the next? Because I think this is an interesting subject, but the short version of it for me is watch your kids, take good care of your kids. It's okay to be a weird parent and to have stay-at-home moms. I think stay-at-home moms work, and it's hard work, but it's fulfilling work. If the man can afford to go out and work and pay for the woman to stay home.
Yep. And it's okay to be a paranoid parent.
Yeah, yeah.
I was.
Look, every single kid that's in my circle that growing up who was abused, they blame their parents for not being watchful enough. And in a lot of cases, some cases they weren't. Some cases, stuff happens. It does happen.
Right.
But watch your kids. Watch what's going into their soul, and I think it's really, really critical.
Can I just say real quick?
Yeah.
Like, so I would say I didn't have the strictest of parents, but I didn't have the what's the opposite of strict? Like loose view parents either.
Neither legalistic nor licentious.
Yeah. But there were some things they didn't allow me to do that like all my other friends were doing. Like, for example, I was not allowed to watch PG-13 things till I was 13, but all my friends were allowed to, right?
Yeah,
And I was so upset at my parents.
Acceptable.
Yeah. I was so upset at my parents with them for that decision at that time, but now looking back, I'm very thankful for it. And I appreciate what
I didn't let my kids watch PG-13 until they were 13. And they didn't see R-rated movies until they were the right age to watch R-rated movies.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, that's the way it was, man.
So
Yep.
your kids might think that some of your rules are weird and strict, but I think like if you raise them right, eventually they'll come to realize you were protecting them, trying to help them, and they'll thank you for it down the road.
Well, after they ended up with kids, they and their kids, once they started and got, once their kids got into school and their kids started to grow, they were like, I understand why you did what you did.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yep.
uh-huh.
Yeah. If Charlie were here, he'd say what he always told his kids. He says, Mom and I are going to make mistakes because Mom and I are a bunch of screw-ups. But that's okay, because someday you'll get to grow up and be a screw-up with your kids too.
That's right.
Yes.
And you always do. And that's just the way of life, you know. You make screw-ups, your kids are going to screw up, and their kids are going to screw up, and that's just the way it happens. We're people,
That's it.
and we make mistakes.
Speaking of mistakes, there's another segment coming up. I don't know if it was a mistake or not to give you a segment, but we're giving it to you. It's some
it
Steve's
probably
shenanigans.
Oh,
Bring it
I
up.
can go shoot me a buffalo.
Nope.
Stay out of my garbage can. I'll keep it to myself. Well, I tell you what,
what?
I'm going to have me some T-shirts. I'm going to start wearing for too long. That
T-shirts?
Oh no.
yes,
That's so random. What T-shirts?
Oh, wait till you see. I'm gonna have to.
Okay.
They're gonna.
You're gonna Superman them? Okay.
Well,
Surprise.
they're
Keep
okay.
going.
They're
Keep
they're
going.
cool shirts. So
John,
they're all right.
I'm
they're
kinda
good.
scared.
They're good shirts.
We'll see
so
what happens.
yeah, one of them's a panda shirt, trash panda.
Trash Panda?
Yep, trash
Okay.
panda shirt. So it's
So
okay.
you're starting your own merch line? Is that what you're saying here?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's
So, on the note of church security, now something that Steve's going to bring up here is Scripture and why
Correct.
should a church have church security? Isn't Jesus enough? Won't Jesus just protect you? Slow down.
here.
He's getting too excited.
He's so excited about
This is something that people get into. And the thing is that, and I've run into this a lot, John Arthur, with people.
Yes, sir.
People will say, well, I don't need security. Jesus
It's
will
gonna
protect
me.
us.
Yeah.
Well, Jesus does protect you, but he also gives you the ability to protect you from other things like evil people that are here on this earth that are willing to do harm to you and your family, and gives you that ability to do that. And there is scripture that supports that. Here is one that supports church security, okay? And this is one here, Nehemiah 4:9. So we prayed to our God and posted a guard against them day and night. Now, Nehemiah was the man who rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem. He got permission from the king to go to Jerusalem
The king
and
of
rebuild
Babylon, Persia. What was it?
Judah.
It was the king of Judah. He got permission from.
No,
It wasn't
was
Judah. I believe it
King
was.
Cyrus. King Cyrus.
King Cyrus.
Cyrus.
That's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
Keep rolling.
And he came across the river and ended up rebuilding the walls. And during that time, there was worship going on inside of Jerusalem while he had people that were armed and protecting the people inside while they were rebuilding the wall, while they had enemies that were outside that were wanting to destroy them
Yeah.
at the very same time. So,
They carried a sword and a hammer, and they worked.
and they worked and they worked and they worked and they took time and protected while they
Jesus
and
Christ
worship.
said there will come a time where you need to sell your cloak and buy a sword.
That is very
33:6. If the watchman on the wall sees evil comes and does not sound the trumpet, and innocent blood is shed, that blood will be on his head. It's the John Arthur paraphrase. Burn it with fire, but for now
Paraphrasing.
it gets you close enough. Anyway, keep
paraphrasing. And now there are about 3 different types of things that go on through church security that you have to deal with typically. One of them, next slide, Captain, one of them is you have protests that go on. Now, we saw this earlier go on here, what was it, about a week or so ago, if I'm not mistaken, where Don Lemon was involved and a number of people got arrested over this with protesting. Now, there are laws against protesting in churches, okay? You have a right to worship in freedom, not to be disturbed while you worship.
So
You have a constitutional right to that.
Manu Chao, I hope I said that right, said, it's okay. Just tell Jesus that the Dow is over 50,000.
Oh my gosh.
Comedy, we call that a callback. Anyway, keep going.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, keep Sorry. Just
No,
keep
that's
going.
pretty funny. I like that.
All right.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, that was good. So protests, if those happen, obviously we're not talking about
Now-
shooting anyone necessarily, but
Correct.
only if they get rowdy.
Now with protests, what you have to do is during protest, you're going to have to deal with people. You're going to have to calm people down. There's going to be times that you're going to have to protect the pastor. You're going to have to end up getting these people out. You're going to have to take them, move them out, and tell them that they are trespassed on the property, okay? So that when you call 911 and tell the police when they show up and they've been trespassed, they get moved off the property and they are taken out, and they have to be out on public property, which is like out at the street or the ditch. Okay? They cannot be on private property, which is the property of the church, which
then
they are
also-
not allowed to be on to protest.
You always have freedom of speech, Don Lemon, but your free speech does not allow you to do illegal things like break and
That
enter
is correct.
and cause a public disturbance.
You
That's
can't
exactly
yell fire
right.
in a crowded theater.
Well, you can, but the problem
But,
is
yeah.
you just did a call to action.
Right.
You just attempted to cause a stampede when there's no fire. You
Right.
just came in and obstructed people from worshiping in their church, and you brought in a mob as a physical act and threat of violence. So
That's
yeah,
exactly right.
Christians have every right to stand there.
And you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're being threatened. You don't know if these people have weapons. You don't know what's going to happen there.
Correct.
You have no clue.
That's it.
You don't know if you're fearing for your life. Next one, sir. An active shooter. We've seen this happen at churches where people will walk in. We've seen this at LDS Church. We've seen this happen at a few different churches. We've seen it happen in a Texas church
Yeah.
where a number of people got shot.
Well, many churches.
People will walk in and try to shoot as many people as possible. Okay, that's the idea behind a church shooting or an active shooter. This is where church security is so important, where you have people that are stationed outside the door, people inside the door greeting people that are armed, and you have people in the worship center that are armed. Only time you have open doors are the open doors that have people that are guarding them. You make sure you always have radios so people can be contacted and talk to each other. It is very important that you are able to contact and talk to all of the people that are on your security team. Very, very important so that you can get that information instantly across to everybody else.
Indeed. So this is from Kinsey Wren. Our church's gun-free zones, only if they make them so. So, and again, some states, check your state laws, but here in Texas where we reside, no, unless they put out a 30-5, 6, and/or 7 sign.
Correct.
So in Texas, we have the 30-6 sign, which means no conceal. 30-7 is no open carry, and 30-5 is no unlicensed. Because we have an LTC and constitutional carry, I'm not sure why that exists. There's a 30-5 sign.
Which,
for those who were constitutional carrying, you're not allowed to constitutional carry, but you can LTC
Correct.
carry.
Correct. That is exactly right. Now, in some and now when I talk about this, you definitely have to talk and read up on all of your state laws. Your state laws are very, very important.
They'll be different, sadly.
All states are definitely different, just like John Arthur is talking about. But the thing is like you have to have an approved sign. Just because you have the little sign with a gun and a little circle with a line through it, that is not an approved sign that says no guns allowed.
So,
you have to have the proper signage.
Ricky Roush asked, shouldn't local authorities handle this? We did an episode 2 years ago on, we did 2 episodes. They were twin episodes, one after the other. 10 good guys with guns, 10 good guys without guns, talking about mass shootings that had occurred and were stopped by both people with and without an armed solution for the problem. The issue is the cops will get here 3 to 4 minutes at best, like best case scenario.
Very best.
And when you have a church, so I go to a church that has about 300 people. We can't afford a sheriff every day. So church security in small churches like ours is a small to mid-sized church. There are men who volunteer to be church security. And, you probably could have set that one up a little bit more for people who don't know. For small churches, you got to set up a security system.
Correct.
Because they are great. Sutherland Springs here in Texas, I think they had 120 congregants. It was something around 50 shot, 50 injured, give or take, 50 killed, 50 injured, or 40 injured, somewhere in there.
40 were injured, I believe.
And the only thing that saved them was an NRA instructor who was asleep and was not in church. He ran across the main street and with his AR-15, and he done messed the guy up. The guy got in his car, drove away, bled out in the car, crashed. So Sutherland Springs was one of the deadliest, I believe. When was Sutherland Springs? I think it was 2018. Sutherland Springs church shooting. Someone look it up and let me know in the comments, because that was the bloodiest to date. And we've had many, many shootings in Texas.
Right.
But that church could not afford and could not have afforded a police officer to stand and be on duty. That's why we're discussing this. Keep going, Steve.
Yes. And next slide. Pastor protection. This is one of the other things that is very important when you're dealing with church security. You have to have one person on your security team that is always assigned to the pastor, kind of like a bodyguard, basically. When the sermon is over, you have one person, basically the pastor's bodyguard, wherever he goes, that's where that person goes. Doesn't matter where he goes. If he goes to the can, this guy goes to the can with. If he goes to his office, he goes, stands outside his office. He goes wherever he goes until he leaves. Unless he's having a meeting that he's going to have that's going to be for like 2 hours, he goes and hangs out, and then he goes and waits someplace else, waits till the meeting's over, walks him and his wife out to the vehicle until it's done, sees him off till he gets off down the road, watches him off down the road till sees him off the property. If you have like a protest, this person is assigned to the pastor to where he goes up, gets the pastor, takes him off to a secure room. We saw that one protest on TV. Nobody took this pastor off, and all they did was they allowed these people to come up to this pastor and approach the pastor. No, you don't do that. We don't know if those people could have had ill content towards this pastor or not. We don't know. They could have stuck him. I mean, you don't know.
Correct.
You never know what's going to happen with people.
And people are crazy. So this is Cold Steel 2 says, my hometown had a good guy with an AR stopping a bad guy with an AR at a school. He ended what would have been a massacre of children. So that's exactly what we want to see and hear.
Exactly.
In fact,
yes.
we have stories of people at coming to like quince añeras or whatever with intent to shoot, and they're walking in, and some mom pulls a pistol out and blows the guy's head off.
Right.
That will never be reported as a stopped mass shooting. There's between 500,000 and 3 million defensive uses of a firearm every year, depending upon which metric you use. And the estimates are very hard to measure a defensive use of a firearm, because whether that's just me pulling out my pistol and brandishing it, or if that's shots are fired back and forth, you don't know. And so just the presence of a gun literally can be the difference between an incident or not. Pre-COVID, thank you, Biden, it was 30,000 gun deaths a year. And now I believe it's something like 50 or 60. Because the violence is skyrocketed.
Yeah.
But half of those are suicide. Half or more are suicide. It used to be 20,000. Pre-COVID, it was 20,000 were suicide. I think I had that backwards. 10,000 were suicide. 20,000 were homicides. So all of that to say, guys, 30,000, let's say 60,000 now, gun deaths a year, versus 500,000 to 3 million defensive uses. The church should be able to do this, and the church is perfectly competent to.
Oh, yes. Yes, church is plenty competent. And the one thing that you have to remember when you have a church security team, the police are not going to show up to save you.
Correct.
Okay? You got to remember that. It could take them
an hour.
Depending on the traffic, depending on where you're at, depending on your church. Your church could be located 30, 40 minutes from
Correct.
From a
hospital.
A hospital or from a
police station.
Police station.
Yeah.
How long? That's a long time to have to wait for the police to show up.
And it's better if you can just take care of it yourself. By the way, I'll issue a quick correction to what I said. 2023, here's the update. 43,000 to 46,000 died from gun violence, but of those, in 2023, the numbers are still out yet, 27,000 of those were self-offings. So
about half.
It's about half. So just so that you actually have some stats in your pocket, it's about half are self-inflicted as opposed to someone else. When the media tries to say 50,000 gun deaths a year, at least 500,000 defensive uses are perpetrated. So they save, by one order of magnitude, more the lives that are taken using a gun.
Yeah, and
might as well
they
save your
don't want to
church.
mention that, and they don't want to mention defensive uses.
Correct.
At all, because defensive uses, oh no, don't want to talk about that. Can't talk about defensive uses, and can't talk about,
Well, it doesn't
offing
fit the
yourself.
narrative.
That's
It doesn't fit the narrative. And
Exactly.
So there are lies, darn
That's
lies.
exactly right.
In statistics. So, protesting, mass shootings, and then, of course, the third reason that you would want to have a good church security apparatus is
next one, Captain.
not that one.
Not that one.
The next one.
You have child predators. Okay. Now, one of the things that you have to constantly deal with in church security are people who come in that are child predators. The thing about a church, okay, is that people in a church are real kind, nice, forgiving, okay? People that are child predators know this. They come in, they come to a place, oh, I've been forgiven and this, and they go through the whole scenario. It's all fake because of what they do, and they work their way in because they have these scenarios built up and how they talk to people, and they work their way in,
Yeah.
and they go straight for
Youth
the
ministry.
children's area, the youth ministry,
They get involved in the youth ministry.
constantly. And you have to do background checks. Number one thing on child security, every time you have anyone that's going into a child ministry, always, everyone, doesn't matter who it is, that's going to go through that door into the child ministry. I don't care if it's your pastor. I don't care if it's the head of security.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a background check.
Always.
The
And
people that work
thorough.
there.
Be thorough. If they're working with kids, be thorough. Make sure you have two deep leadership. That means
Yes.
2 adults per any kid. That protects the adults, that protects the kids.
Yes.
I've been in situations where I've had children come to me and say stuff where it was like the realization was they were suffering from child abuse at home.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be hearing that. You don't want to be dealing with that by yourself. You want
Correct.
to have that accountability and also that safeguard to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
It is to protect you when you are working with kids. You want to make sure that you have that safety. It's also for the kids because obviously
Right.
you don't always know so well the person you're with.
Correct. And you have restroom issues that you deal with kids. So you have to make sure you have all of these rules that are set up prior to getting started in dealing with your children's ministry. So make sure you have everything set up. That's why having security teams are so important.
Yeah. You want to
You got to worry about the liability of the church.
Well, also
very
just
important.
the safety
And
of the people.
safety of all the people and your children.
Yep.
Very important. Because just like it says here in Matthew 18:6, but if any one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him
19.
to have a large millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea.
Yep.
Now, think about that. Okay?
So, make sure that you button up your security. Make sure that if you are part of a church, make sure that you have men who are willing to do this. And hopefully they are the biggest men. It is not, the same argument for no women. If you got a small guy, make sure he's a grappler. Make sure that he's able to actually get someone. I'm not saying that short guys can't kick butt. They absolutely can.
Oh, most definitely.
Make sure, though, that they're capable. You don't want someone who's small to be between a large predator and someone who's innocent. If they are small, they can't be weak, they can't be effeminate, they have to be capable, or they have to be properly tooled up, if you know what I mean, to be able
Correct.
to deal with that predator. Make sure that you have training at the church that I go to. Steve and I go to the same church. We went to the shooting range. I'll tell you, most of those guys, I really don't want them shooting if something happens. So make sure
Yep.
that you have guys that are trained, that go to the range.
Ben.
Not all, but many of them. I was looking at patterns that were about this wide. So
At least that wide.
Steve does
or
this.
wider.
Okay, Steve does this. I had a really good clip do like this.
John Arthur shoots good. I got to tell you, John Arthur shoots good.
That's me shooting fast, pop, 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 pop. But still, I need to improve. But I barely get a chance to shoot.
We all-
Ammo's expensive.
Yeah.
Ammo's expensive. I rarely get to go to the range. But make sure
Yeah,
you're
me
training.
too.
Make sure you're training. And then I think it's on cut number, because we got a little issue with the cuts there. I think it's on cut number 22 is the next one.
Yes.
So that's Isaiah.
Isaiah 32:18. My people will abide in a peaceful habitation, in securing dwellings, and in quiet resting places. Now, this is securing people's personal property, okay? The next slide, please, sir. You have, as far as people's personal property, what do you have out in the parking lot? Worshipers' vehicles.
Yep.
You've got bunches of them. And there's going to be times that you got malcontents that are going to drive into a parking lot and try and break in, just like you saw that one in that picture trying to break in.
Yep.
Now, I've run into that a couple of times here at my church and have had to run off a few people that were trying to break into cars, going around, parking off to the side of the church where, go around off to the side, and then they'll come around acting like they're just kind of walking, and walk up and pull a handle, go over to another one. You got to pay attention to what they're doing, because they'll walk around.
It's a soft target, at least in their mind.
And they'll
People think
checking for a door that's open.
that churches are gun-free zones. Case in
Yes.
point, the question earlier. So no, they're not de facto unless they make it. So, like I said, in Texas, it's a 30.5, 6, or 7 sign. It's a 30.07.06.
Correct. And, there's, to tell you the truth, there's very few churches in Texas that are gun-free.
Most of them realize that you can't get away with it.
I could say what type of churches are, but I'm not going to.
Moving on.
Moving on. And the next one is right here. What we have for security teams. This is one thing that is very important for security teams to do. Pray. Okay? Our security team here at our church, we pray a lot. It's very important. As an individual, as a team, you pray for your security, for your team. You pray for the safety of your worshipers, and you pray for your pastor, the safety of him and his family, and for all of the worshipers to come and get there safely and return home safely, and for them to worship safely. It's all about everyone that shows up new, that can receive the Holy Spirit. The one thing you don't want to do at your church is turn it into a bunker. The whole thing is to receive everybody that wants to come in. You turn it into a bunker, who's going to want to show up? Nobody.
Be mindful of what you're doing.
Exactly.
And sometimes you'll have those people that look like they could be someone you don't know, and you're concerned, and they're walking up to the front. Don't dive bomb on the person who's having an actual come to Jesus moment and ruin it.
Right.
So just use common sense, be in prayer, be focused on the Lord and what the purpose of what you're doing there.
Correct, John Arthur.
Some people think they're G.I. Joe when they get into these situations and they start to really LARP as cops. Don't do that. That's a no. It's never a good thing.
You know, you've got to read people. You've got to see things, pay attention to what's going on. Now, I will say, if it's 98 degrees out there and somebody comes walking up with a big old overcoat on,
and there's something
there might
pointy,
be a concern.
and there's something pointy in there. Yeah,
There might be a concern.
greet
there.
them and say, hi, how long you been coming to the church?
And can I look inside that coat?
Yeah, más o menos.
So,
Más o menos.
you know.
Peter would have carried a saw instead of a sword if one was available, says Dearman. I think he might have. I think Peter might have also been a kimber man. Okay, he
It might have been.
might have spent more money than he should have on a gun that may or may not have been reliable, but he sure felt good about buying it. Did I throw some rocks? I'm
And
sorry.
I don't think any of those apostles would have bought a 320.
Well, those
Maybe
are
a
shake awake.
365.
Yeah, he carries a 365. The shake awake feature on the 320 is a little bit disturbing. Yeah.
I would say so.
So, all of that to say, yeah.
Just
So-
to say the least.
Moving on. This has been Steve Shenanigans. We're moving into the next section. Mr. Producer and I were talking, and we're going to do a song review.
Oh, all right.
So, good versus bad theology in your songs. Let's go ahead and talk about a weak versus strong set of songs that I think the lyrics in one are objectively better than the other. Why do we sing in church, Mr. Producer? What's the purpose?
To praise the Lord, give him the glory he deserves, sing about what he's done for us, and to one of my favorite verses, Colossians 3:16, says we teach, admonish each other through psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. So it's a form of teaching as well.
Correct.
Singing and songs. I love songs that incorporate a lot of scripture and just singing God's word back to him and just giving it back to him, but also taking it in is very good as well.
So with one of the most important things that I would add to that is people walk out. Some people are musically inclined. Some people are logically inclined. Some people walk out. The doctrine they walk out with is not what the pastor said. It's what they're singing in their head for the rest of the week. So doctrine is really important, and music is a direct translation to the soul. It's an art form that speaks to the heart, and it kind of bypasses, especially if you're not being careful, it bypasses the reason and logic gates of your mind and goes right into your heart. So you want to make sure that you're consuming good things, garbage in, garbage out, good in, good out. So let's go ahead and dig into the first song.
All right, so first song we're going to go over today is Where Were You by Ghost Ship. I don't know if anyone out there has heard of these guys. They're a bit more of a obscure, not as well-known Christian band, but
I don't think
I love
I've ever heard of them.
They're
Yeah,
a solid group.
But yeah, they're a solid group. I love their stuff, and this is one of my favorite songs, like not just of theirs, but like one of my favorite Christian songs. And it's based upon Job 38, where God answers Job out of the whirlwind. He says, I will question you, and you will answer me like a man. And this song is just basically verbatim that chapter. So let's get into it here first. It doesn't really have verses,
Yeah.
but let's get into it. So I said, God, I do not understand this world. Everything is dying and broken. Why do I see nothing but suffering? God, I'm asking, could this be your plan? Sin has taken hold of this whole land. Will you not say anything else to me?
So this is less of a corporate worship song.
Yeah, definitely not a corporate
And
worship song.
it's kind of a ballad of sorts.
It'd probably be a better testimonial or special if you're going to use it in a church service.
And it could be sung as a testimonial.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's praise songs, worship songs, and there's ballads, there's testimonials, and there's probably some other delineations you could make, but those mostly cover the vast majority. Worship and praise songs tend to be a little bit less formative, but there's a place for them. Worship songs tend to be worshiping God, not praising God, but giving him the honor he is due, as opposed to just exalting him. They're speaking to his excellence and his glory. Ballads are something that are sung that speak about what God has done, and a testimonial is something is more personal.
Yeah, it's about kind of your story.
Like I Can Only Imagine is a testimonial.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's
you
a good
wouldn't
one.
you wouldn't have people get up and sing I Can Only Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So the next
Continuing
verse.
on, and then he said, "That's God." He said, "Where were you the day that I measured, sunk the banks, and stretched the line over all the earth, and carved out its cornerstone? Where were you the day that I spoke, and told the sun to split the night open, called the morning dawn with its light to show?" And if you go and look at Job chapter 38, that's pretty much verbatim what the chapter says.
Yep. It's a sign of a good song.
Yeah. And then, who shut in the oceans with stone doors, marked the reach of tides on those new shores, on the day the waves rose and first broke forth? Have you seen the springs of that great sea, walk the caverns carved in the black deep, through the gates of darkness there on its floor? Now, what do y'all think so far?
What's good about this, and this is why I say it's somewhere between I think it's more between a ballad and it veers into worship because it's attributing unto God via the words of Job 38 with
Right.
some transliteration to make sure we're rhyming, and the
Right.
meter is good, and done very well. By the way, if you read the song, this is it's good, but if you listen to it, this is "Where Were You" by Ghost Ship. For those of you in the chat who are wondering. The song is well composed, and it's a very strong worship full attitude that it invokes and it brings. And I think that's an important thing. It's you're attributing unto God the glory, the honor
Right.
that he deserves by speaking his words back to him.
Right. And another thing I love about this song is that pointing out God's power and sovereignty in creation, how he created everything. And, he's basically saying to Job, like, trust me, right, with what he was going through. Like, I created all this. I'm over everything. Everything in this world answers to me. So trust me, Job. And
Yeah.
So continuing on.
You can ask the questions, but I have the answers.
Right. Have you seen the armory I hold? Snow and hail are stacked up in silos for the times of trouble and war and strife. Can you raise your voice to the storm cloud? Would the thunder answer and ring out? Does the lightning ask you where it should strike? Who has cleft a channel for torrents, rain to sprout the desert with forest, in the wilderness that my hand has filled? Can you hunt the prey for young lions? Can you loose the cords of Orion? Is this whole world bending beneath your will? And then the ending, this is back to the Job or
Job
yourself.
speaks now.
Yeah. I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, although I had no right to ask. My God knelt and answered me.
See, that's the synthesis of the human experience,
Yes.
at least by God's design, is to understand that God kneels down and answers the unworthy, small human. That is something that I think people just do not grasp, just how much God condescends to speak to us. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And before we move on to the next song, just want to say that this is one of the songs that inspired me to start writing my own Christian songs that I hope to eventually one day record and put out there, because there's just there's so much about this song that I love. Like, there's so much theology packed in here. Like I said, it's pretty much verbatim scripture, but it's also when you listen to this song and you hear the melody and everything that goes along with it, it's very humbling.
Yeah.
And it's also convicting and also comforting in a way.
And it's not your 7-Eleven evangelical slop.
Right. But one of my pastors, his son played this song as a special for service, and afterwards he's like, kind of makes you feel small, doesn't it? Yeah. But it's also very comforting in a way, because it's like, wow, this is my God.
This is
What have
our
I
God.
to fear?
Yeah. And that's what a worship song should induce. That's what a song that we put in our heads. So let's move to something that, again, no hate on this artist. I'm not here to tear anyone
not.
down.
He's got some good stuff.
This guy's okay, but this is one of the weaker installments. And we're not doing this for the sake of one-upsmanship or somehow putting anything down, but more from the perspective of how do we look at what makes a song good? And I think it really comes down to, are you worshiping God or are you worshiping yourself? I think a lot of churches would do well to say, what are we doing with our worship service? Are we putting on a show? Are we trying to be seeker-friendly? Or are we trying to engage people in worship with God? Like, what is your purpose?
And are we reflecting Christ? Are we reflecting God properly?
Always
Are
begin
we
with the
giving
end
this
in mind.
kind of fluffy, like all sunshine rainbows version
Yeah.
of him? Are we giving this too like condemning version of him?
What's the purpose?
Yeah.
Always
I
begin
hope
with the
you're
purpose.
using that rainbow in the right context.
Keep going.
Okay.
So this is from Matt Redman.
Yes, Matt Redman.
Let my words be few.
Which honestly, I didn't really hear this one before we decided to do it for this week.
Yep. It's there's a reason why a lot of the old
you.
there's a lot of old hymns that you don't hear about. It's because they're like this song. They're kind of just bleh, and so they're not old stalwart hymns. Keep going.
Right. You are God in heaven, and here am I on earth. So I'll let my words be few. Jesus, I am so in love with you.
Sounds like Jesus is your boyfriend.
Yeah, in the words of my good friend Winston Powers, stop it with the Jesus is my boyfriend song.
And so again, the question is, what's your point of reference? Is your point of reference yourself or your own experience by comparison to God's? Like, that's always my question is are you exalting the experience or are you exalting God? You can, the songs can reference the singer and still be worship songs to God. The question is, like Amazing Grace is a great example. It saved a wretch like me. I was once lost, but now I'm found. But all of that is in the shadow of the cross, in the shadow of God's
Right.
grace, in the shadow of God's love. And it's a reference. It's not referencing my experience. It's not saying, oh, and now I'm here to worship. Now I'm here. Well, get on with it. Just worship. Just give God his praise. Anyway, keep going. We get so focused on ourselves.
Right. And I'll stand in awe of you. Yes, I'll stand in awe of you.
Stand in awe already. Keep going.
And I'll let my words be few. Jesus, I am so in love with you.
So, and look, and someone says, but we're the bridesmaids or something. So we are the bride of Christ. What I would say is, you got to remember, you have to give God the glory and the honor that he deserves. I'm not saying this to be difficult or legalistic. I'm saying this from the perspective of there's so much more that you can do.
Right.
And
Like,
you can go deeper in the relationship.
Yes.
So like, it's like, let's just pretend, Ryan, we're going to pretend that we're speaking to someone in this room that is married. If I'm speaking to you, Ryan, say, I'm going to pretend I'm your girlfriend for a second. No homo.
okay.
But oh, Ryan, I'm going to tell you how much I love you. And Ryan, I'm going to tell you how much I appreciate you. And I've come here to tell you that I really respect you and I think you're a great man of the house. If a woman says that, you're going to say, isn't that a little weird? Like, couldn't you just say, Ryan, you're a good guy and you're smart and you're intelligent and I like being around you. Like, if a woman came to you and said, Ryan, I'm going to tell you, I'm here to tell you, there's going to come a point where you just go, so get to it already, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just a weird expression that is so focused. And I am so glad that I am here to tell you. And I am so glad that I experienced it. It's shallow. by comparison to what
shallow,
you
that's it,
could
yeah.
do. You want to not just tell God what you're going to praise, but you want to actually, and focus on your experience, you want to focus on his glory. And that's the purpose of this.
There's a difference between talking and action.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want your
Don't
words
just
You know what I mean?
tell, show.
to show.
Right.
Actions speak louder than words.
Think about so someone said, I think someone said, "Come thou fount" in the chat. If you did, that's one of my favorites.
Love that one.
And that's such a good song because you're literally speaking to God
Excuse me.
in a way that is deep, it's rich, it's focused on who he is. That's what we're talking about, is that there are better things to go. You can tackle it with more depth.
Yeah, and
going.
this is these two songs we've chosen are a very good example of what you're talking about, John Arthur. 'Cause
Yeah.
these type of songs, like the Matt Redwin one we're looking at right now, these are the type of songs that like got me into Christian music, and I used to enjoy for a decently long time. But then I start discovering artists with deeper lyrics like Ghost Ship and the Gettys and City of Light, and I'm like, wow, this is what Christian music can be.
Yeah.
This is so much better.
Actual good art and not something that's kind of a four-chord progression and general slop. So the Jesus is my boyfriend thing, I think that needs to go. You can tell if Jesus is the lover of your soul, you can tell him exactly what you think. And if you have good theology, you can tell him why he is great, why he deserves your praise. And it's less about your experience and more about God's holiness. The more you think about something, the more you become like it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Agreed.
I think that's the synthesis of it. So we got to get to the screw tape letters.
Oh, yay.
Do you feel like we covered that one?
Yeah, I think we did.
This has been the music review, the song review.
That song kind of like repeats the same verse
Over and over
as
again.
over
That's
and
another
over
problem with a
and
lot
over.
of CCM for me. It's very repetitive.
So
And for me, after you repeat it a certain amount of times, it just kind of loses its meaning.
again,
No.
not crusty pro chant Catholics, although glad to be around you guys. I think you guys have some good stuff in the theology department. But just saying some of the CCM stuff is garbage. Like it really is garbage. As a Southern Baptist, I'll just say that I think the non-Catholic churches in some ways and non-Orthodox churches have lost a lot of the depth when we go to the Hillsongs, the Bethels. Not always, but
No, definitely not. They got some good stuff.
they do have things that are theologically, sound, but generally it is weak toast. And a lot of the old hymns are weak toast. It's just the good ones that we remember because they made thousands and thousands of old hymns. It's only the good ones that we remember. And there's only the good ones that stand the test of time. So when we're looking at new music, it says, sing unto the Lord a new song. That is not a
Yes.
bad thing. The question is the new song worth singing? Is it really worthy of our God? So just something to put on the mind. On to the screw tape letters. So if you are just joining us for the first time, we're going to go a couple down, buddy.
Okay.
Let's be at 39.
We had some folks asking about screw tape letter.
Yep. So we are still on it. We're in chapter 21 this week. Go ahead and go to the next one to overview. If you have not been reading along with us and you're not familiar, the screw tape letters are a series of correspondence between two demons. It's written by C.S. Lewis. That's C.S. Lewis, the authors of Chronicles of Narnia. The screw tape in this is an elder mentor to the apprentice Wormwood, the demon apprentice. In this correspondence, Screwtape encourages Wormwood in how to tempt Wormwood's human patient, a young man in the World War II era of Britain. In this thread of conversation, Lewis explores the base temptations of man and how Satan and his tempters may indeed think about our own existence and how they may work to tempt the souls of men. Now, in chapter 21, he goes into the trap of ownership. The trap of ownership. Do you really own what you think you own?
No.
Who owns everything?
I
Interesting.
think we just did a song review about that, kind of, didn't we?
So if you own something, you own two things. You own your honor and you own your relationship with Christ and your soul, your very soul. Those are the only two things that you have any sort of ownership over. And by the way, you're supposed to relinquish both over to God anyway. So that's kind of the spirit, and that is the Christian experience in a nutshell. But let's go ahead and get into Lewis, because this is some good stuff. My dear Wormwood, he starts. Yes, a period of sexual temptation, because we've been talking about sexual temptation up to this point, is an excellent time for working in a subordinate attack on the patient's peevishness. It may even be the main attack as long as he thinks it the subordinate one. But here, as in everything else, the way must be prepared for your moral assault by darkening his intellect. That's important. Your intellect's important. We'll get to that in a minute. Men are not angered by mere misfortune, but by misfortune conceived as injury. And the sense of injury depends on the feeling that a legitimate claim has been denied. The more claims on life, therefore, that your patient can be induced to make, the more often he will feel injured and, as a result, ill-tempered. Now you will have noticed that nothing throws him into a passion so easily as to find attractive time, which he reckoned to have, having had at his own disposal, unexpectedly taken from him. So, darkening of the intellect. I want to break that down for a minute. What does the scripture do for our minds?
Renews it.
Renews them. And so one of the most important things that Lewis is getting at here is the less time you are in the Word, the easier it is for the demons and devils of hell to darken your intellect. Yeah.
John Arthur, do you remember who was it? I'm pretty sure you know this quote that said, like, every action you take makes you more of a creature of heaven or hell.
There's Lewis. Lewis said.
Okay.
Lewis said in Mere Christianity. He said that.
Can we do that one next?
Yeah, Mere Christianity would be fantastic. Tell us in the comment section what you would like us to do next. For sure, it is a good one. But to go back to this page, one other thing he says, the sense of injury for time lost is where Lewis is going here. Have you ever had 5 minutes that you thought you were going to be able to do something, even if it was something simple as check your messages or whatever, and someone walks in and all of a sudden they start to take your time, a family member, a friend, a colleague at work, and now you're upset because the 5 minutes that you would have spent surfing the internet, checking your messages or whatever has been consumed by someone. You ever had that happen?
I'm pretty sure, I don't know if he talked about it while he was on the podcast last week, but Mr. Eric Hernandez talked to us about that sometime last week while he was here, that I think he was doing this D Now one weekend, and like he said, like he didn't even have time to get up and go to the bathroom.
Correct.
Because like people would start asking him questions.
Correct.
About that.
But that's why he was there. And
right.
We're here for a reason on this earth. Our time is not our own. It is God's. And the more that we can lay claim to our own time, and the more offended we will be when that time is quote unquote stolen from us. That is something that I've noticed in my own life. This is a convicting passage to read. So to continue on, it is the unexpected visitor when he looked forward to a quiet evening, or the friend's talkative wife turning up when he looked forward to a time with a friend, that throw him out of gear. Now, he is not yet so uncharitable or slothful that these small demands on his courtesy are in themselves too much for it. They anger him because he regards his time as his own and feels as it is being stolen. Therefore, you must therefore zealously guard in his mind the curious assumption that, quote unquote, my time is my own. Let him have the feeling that he starts each day as the lawful possessor of 24 hours. Let him feel as a grievous tax that portion on this property which he has to make over to his employers as a generous donation, that further portion which he allows to his religious duties. But what he must never be permitted to doubt is that the total from which these deductions have been made was, in some mysterious way, his own personal birthright. Your time in the Word with God, how many hours a day do you spend in the Word of God?
Not enough.
It's almost, but every time you spend time in the Word, if you're not careful, what does it feel like? a
Chore.
a tax, a chore,
Yep.
something that you didn't need to do. And yet it's that very time that fortifies you against this particular attack of Satan. Interesting. Interesting how that works.
It, yeah, it very much is. It's how that is.
You have a delicate task here. The assumption which you want him to go on making is so absurd, if once it is questioned, even we cannot find a shred of argument in its defense. The man can neither make nor retain one more moment of time. It all comes to him by pure gift. He might as well regard the sun and moon as his chattels. He is also, in theory, committed a total service of the enemy. And if the enemy appeared to him in bodily form and demanded that total service even for one day, he would not refuse. He would be greatly relieved if that one day involved nothing harder than listening to the conversation of the foolish woman, and he would be relieved almost to the pitch of disappointment if for 1/2 hour of that day the enemy said, "Now you may go and amuse yourself." Now, if he thinks about his assumption for even a moment, even he is bound to realize that he is actually in this situation every day. Your time is not your own. You were bought with a price.
Right. Yep.
Your children are not your own. You are the steward of their health, their safety, their life. Your job was given to you as part of your calling. Your calling, if you are a Christian, is 100% in God's hands. That is the Christian walk. I told Mr. Producer this one time, and I think I blew his mind. It's easier to die for Christ than it is to live for him.
Amen.
We can all assume, in a sense, yes, I would die for you, Lord. Yes, I would die for you. Put away your sword, Peter. Peter took out his sword. And someone said in the comment section, Peter had to be a really good shot. Well, actually, if you here, go wide for a second, Mr. Producer. If I pull a sword and I swing and Steve ducks, that's probably how the sword cut the ear. Because the guy is doing this motion. He's dodging. He's getting below. Peter is fully ready to die for Jesus. Fully ready to die. Jesus says, no, put away the sword. This is not what you are to do. Peter still follows him. But the moment he has to live in the shadow of the consequences, the social consequences of knowing Jesus of Nazareth, the potential political persecution, he denies Christ 3 times in a short succession. The political persecution, having to be jailed, having to be ostracized for the community at the very least, not being able to go to synagogue. He's with these people right now. Now it's real. Woman, I do not even know who you are. Your time and your commitment to the Lord, it's harder than ever when you actually have to live it out in your day-to-day life. And your time is not your own. It's given to you. You are, in fact, being watched. How many of us would not be involved in porn? How many of us would not be involved in lustful behavior, lying? Some people have an issue with white lies. If you thought that Jesus Christ was over your shoulder, how many of us would get angry as we do on the road if we thought Jesus Christ was right with us, present? Just a thought. Just something to put in the back of the mind.
I don't get angry on the road.
Well, that's because you don't drive anymore.
Right.
You have seizures. Continuing on. You have here a delicate task. The assumption,
Didn't you
which...
just read that?
Oh, wait. Did I just read that? Okay, next one. When I, speaking of preserving this assumption in his mind, therefore, the last thing I mean you to do is to furnish him with arguments in its defense. There aren't any. Your task is purely negative. Don't let his thoughts come anywhere near it. The idea that, yeah, he is working for God the whole time. Wrap a darkness about it, and in the center of that darkness, let his sense of ownership in time lie silent. uninspected, and operative. The sense of ownership in general is always to be encouraged. The humans are always putting up claims to ownership in which sound equally funny in heaven and in hell, and we must keep them doing so. Much of the modern resistance to chastity comes from men's belief that they own their bodies, those vast and perilous estates pulsating with energy that may the worlds in which they find themselves without their consent and from which they are ejected at the pleasure of another. In other words, men, your body is a temple.
Nobody can tell me what to do. I can
My
do whatever
body,
I want.
my choice, right? But
That's right.
You did not earn or create your body. And there will come a day, whether old age, whether it's the car wreck, whatever it is, the battlefield, whatever it is, you will die. Your body
Yep.
will cease to exist as a functioning, living, breathing entity. And you don't have any ownership of that. In truth, you don't. And
You have no control over that.
people are going to say that I can check myself out. That's not true. You can't check yourself out. People do check themselves out, but they do it under permission. Let me give you a quick example. My father was a ride-along chaplain in LA. One fellow had tried to check out, 44 in the mouth. When he shot, it rounded the corner and went out, and it made a hole in the window by the door. 2 days later, someone saw, or a day or two later, whatever it was a significant amount of time. He was very dehydrated. But they saw the hole. They found out that they looked and they saw the kid on the ground. Dad showed up with EMS and the paramedics. The kid was alive. He eventually lived. There are many, many, many cases of self-attempted checkouts, being careful for the social media, that do not work.
Right.
Why? Your time is not your own.
Right.
Your life is not your own.
It's not your time.
Women, your bodies are not your own.
Correct.
You are built with a purpose. Men, your bodies are not your own. You are built with a purpose. There is a reason for that. And again, Dawn of a New Day says this in the chat. You didn't give yourself life, and nor can you take it. That's in God's hands. 100%. Continuing on. It is as if a royal child whom his father has placed for love's sake in titular command of some great province, under the real rule of wise counselors, should come to fancy he really owns the cities, the forests, and the corn in the same way that he owns the bricks on the nursery floor. This is Lewis's explanation of our ownership of our own body. We produce this sense of ownership not only by pride but by confusion. We teach them not to notice the different senses of the possessive noun, the finely graded differences that run from my boots through my dog, my servant, my wife, my father, my master, my country to my God. They can be taught to reduce all the senses of that my boots to the my ownership of ownership. Even in the nursery, a child can be taught to mean by my teddy bear, not the old imagined recipient of affection to whom it stands on a special elevation or relation, for that this is what the enemy will teach them to mean if we are not careful. But the bear I can pull to pieces if I like. And that right there, if you read The Great Divorce, there's the mother who quote unquote loved too much. Her son was my son, to the point where she would drag him to hell if that's what it took to make her happy. Is this person my wife? Is this person my father? Is this person my husband, etc.? Or are they someone who is in my circle? Yes, I have that relation. Be careful of over-possessiveness. Satan does use it. And it's like being an infant in a nursery and being given the title. We live under authority. We don't have the power. The power is given to us by our God. Next cut, Mr. Producer. And at the other end of the scale, we have taught men to say, my God, in a sense not really very different from my boots, meaning the God on whom I have a claim for my distinguished services and whom I exploit from the pulpit. The God I have done a corner in. And all the time, the joke is that the word mine, in its fully possessive sense, cannot be uttered by a human being about anything. In the long run, either our Father or the enemy will say mine of each thing that exists, and especially of each man. They will find out in the end, never fear, to whom their time, their souls, and their bodies really belong. Certainly not to them, whatever happens. At the present, the enemy says mine of everything on the pedantic, legalistic ground that he has made it. Our Father hopes in the end to say mine of all things on the more realistic and dynamic ground of conquest. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. So earlier in the Screwtape letters, if you've read, Satan is dealing with the idea of, again, this is Lewis's eschatology, or at least his mental experiment, that Satan's end game is to claim as much of God's as possible. And each soul that's drugged to hell, I would argue not even drugged to hell, willingly goes to hell, is a conquest by Satan, something that he desires and designs to do. But not just people, but your time. How much of your time have you let Satan claim? How much of time have you claimed for yourself? Same thing. In this last week. How much time have you given over to God this week? Something to think about. Because your time is not your own. It is given to you under authority. And authority is like this. You have a sheriff who is elected. He is given authority in the county. And in fact, he's really, in some ways, the highest authority in the county, in a lot of ways. He has the authority because it was given to him, and he's temp help. He can be unelected or recalled for bad behavior. Your time is put under your authority. Are you in good behavior, or are you at risk of having that authority recalled? Something to think about this week. Final thoughts, Steve.
Yeah, just thinking about, the stuff that we were talking about in church security. I'm really big on church security, especially since I'm part of church security. I've heard of some people and on the internet about churches that don't have security. Personally, I am a big church security guy. I believe, just like Nehemiah 4:9, that all churches should have security. We should be protecting our worshipers and making sure that our children are protected, our worshipers are protected, our pastor is protected, so that they can worship in peace and that everyone makes it home safe. Everyone is able to do that every Sunday and any other day of the week that they decide to worship. And church security teams, I believe, are on the rise, and I think it's something that is a big thing that churches need to
Sadly.
check into big time.
Indeed. Ryan, any final thoughts?
I really enjoyed the Screwtape letters today because for me it was a good reminder that not even my own life is mine. Scripture talks about, I believe it's in Daniel, how even the very breath we breathe is given to us by God. God
That's it.
allows us the breath we breathe, and at any point He can just take it away from us if He so chooses.
That's it.
Just a really good reminder how we were made for purpose. We were made for God, to love Him and love others, and to know Him and make Him known.
Amen. Your life is not your own. Go enjoy this week with that in mind. With that said, we got nothing else for you. You guys have a wonderful day.